All right, well, let's start it up. Today is the Wednesday, July 23rd meeting of the Burlington Board of Electric Commission. We do have one change to the agenda. And actually, you guys have the reading for the motion over there, and it's to add agenda item number 9, which is the Sheffield wind contract extension. So someone could do that?
I move that the Burlington Electric Commission approves to adopt the updated agenda for July 23rd, 2025 to include item number 9, Sheffield wind contract extension discussion and vote as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Any objections? Vote? All vote?
All in favor?
All in favor, sorry.
Indicate by saying aye.
Indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed? Nope. Okay, 5 ayes. That has been added to the agenda. And the next thing is the election of officers. So my name's Elena Alexander, and I'm the temporary board clerk. And the July meeting is to figure out the Burlington Electric Commission's organizational order. The first order of business is to elect the officers. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for nominations for the chair of the commission.
I would nominate Commissioner Bond.
Second.
Bethany, you said second? Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote by a show of hands. Please indicate yay or nay, or yay.
Yay.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4s have it. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
At this time, I'm gonna move the meeting over to you so you can take over and have some stuff down there for you.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'm opening the floor for nominations for vice chair of the commission.
I nominate, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I nominate Andy Voda.
I'll second that nomination.
Any other nominations? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to a vote by show of hands. Can you indicate your support for Commissioner Voda? Okay. I think we have all the votes, so congratulations to Commissioner Voda, vice chair position. All right. At this time, I open the floor for nominations for board clerk of the commission.
I nominate Elena Alexander.
Thanks.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that nomination.
Great. Is there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. By show of hands, please indicate your support for Elena Alexander as board clerk. With 5 members present, we have all of the cast in support of Elena Alexander as board clerk. Congratulations to Elena. Great. Okay. So we have now moved up the agenda, the Sheffield wind contract extension as item number 1. Is that correct? Or oh no.
It was gonna be moved to item number 9, but if we need to change order, we can do that at this time.
Okay, I see. Sorry. My apologies. Okay, so no, we're gonna move to the minutes and approving the minutes for the June 11th meeting. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? Any feedback?
Move to accept minutes as presented.
Okay. Any other? All right, the minutes have been accepted for the June 11th meeting. Okay, at this time, we have the public forum. So it looks like we have quite a few folks here that potentially have signed up to speak or even online. Can we, thank you.
There's a list. I don't know who you wanted to speak.
Did you want to sign up? Yes. I don't have a pen from, oh, there you go, thank you. Yeah, great. Perhaps we finish that out. Is there anyone online who is looking to speak? Can you see that, Elena?
There is someone, but I don't have a hand. Yep, there we go.
Great. Jevons Paradox, you have the floor.
We can't hear you, Jevons.
Yes, if you have, perhaps we unmute, mute again.
Burlington resident and Burlington Electric ratepayer. I'd like to make some comments about the strategic direction. There's some.
I'm so sorry, pause for 1 second. We unfortunately can't quite hear you, so just pause for 1 second. Let's see if we can do it on our end and turn up the volume.
Sorry, this is my first time using Microsoft.
That's okay.
Zoom is an easier way to tell which speaker I'm coming out of.
Could the speaker on the phone try one more time for us, please?
Sure. Is this any better?
No, unfortunately, it's a little
Barely.
softer.
'Cause I'm hearing them.
Just one more moment. We're working on it on our end.
It's just
Should we try again or just wait one more moment?
Yes, if they could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could the speaker on the phone try one more time for us, please?
Or just say test, so we can figure out the volume.
Test, test, test.
There we go.
Great. That's great.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, thank you. So there are some good goals articulated in the strategic direction document, and I appreciate its continued focus on low-income customers. However, I believe Burlington Electric Department and this commission must begin to recognize that the 2019 resolution calling for a climate emergency had a commitment to achieving net zero greenhouse gases in the electrical sector. And I'm quoting now from the resolution. Whereas the city of Burlington is committed to achieving net zero greenhouse gases emissions by a vision of net zero by 2030, which would transition Burlington to a net zero energy city across electric, thermal, and ground transportation sectors by managing demand, realizing efficiency gains, and expanding local renewable generation while increasing system resilience. The net zero language here in the strategic direction document and elsewhere in other BED documents should be revised to accurately reflect the intent of the 2019 resolution. And with specifics, the DES is still listed in this strategic direction document. This district energy plan will increase greenhouse gas emissions relative to a do-nothing alternative. At this point in time, it's probably going to cost over $50 million. It's going to increase costs to consumers. That $50 million could buy a lot of community solar for renters and others who can't put solar on their own roofs. And I think that the district energy needs to be removed from this strategic direction document. I commend BED for including language that directs them to seek consumer and customer input, which would be incorporated into program design. I don't believe that BED has, in actuality, been meeting this goal. I and others have been asking for much of what I'm saying tonight for several years. And finally, my last comment, the document calls for a website and other educational tools so that customers can evaluate both cost and greenhouse gas emission reduction outcomes from heat pumps, electric vehicles, and other electrification technologies relative to current fossil fuel sources. I think this is great. I'm not sure it actually exists yet, but if so, that's great. But I'd like to see a similar tool so that you commissioners and customers at large could see the relative costs in greenhouse gases from other power sources so that we can see how McNeil stacks up against other sources on the grid. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Typically, I don't know if the general manager has any comments now or
No.
we'll keep going through. Yes, okay. We also have in the audience a few folks who want to come up. So first is Nick Persempieri.
Thank you. I'm Nick Persampieri. I'm a Burlington Electric ratepayer and a resident of Ward 3. I am very concerned about the legislation that the Connecticut governor signed on July 1st, which it appears will impact Burlington Electric's ability to sell renewable energy credits from McNeil in the Connecticut Class 1 market. McNeil's financial health is heavily dependent on those REC sales. Over the last several years, typically those REC sales have generated revenue of $6 to $8 million. Burlington Electric's 50% share of those is $3 to $4 million. As I have pointed out in prior meetings, the plant is losing money according to the financial statements prepared by Burlington Electric, even including those REC revenues. Now we face the possible loss of those REC revenues. I'm also concerned that General Manager Springer in his July 11th, 2025 memo states that in order to be able to continue to sell those RECs, BED would have to be selected through a Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection RFP process. And I'm not really sure what he's referring to there, whether he's talking about a proposal to continue to sell RECs or a proposal to sell power. I'm also concerned that entering into any kind of long-term commitment to sell power, especially or even RECs, is not the direction we should be going. We should be trying to close McNeil for the reasons I've stated at previous meetings. I'm also concerned that at the same time that we face these potential additional losses, BED behind closed doors is negotiating a potential buyout of the interests of the owners of the other 50% of the plant. Right now, BED bears only half of the plant's losses. If it becomes 100% owner, it would be subject to 100% of the losses. At the same time, BED is also still, as far as we know, pursuing the district energy project, again behind closed doors, which could lock in continued operation of the plant, again, in the face of more potential losses. We think this is not the direction we should be headed, and there's been very little information made available to the public about either the potential buyout or district energy. We'd like to see some public disclosure as to what's going on those two issues so that the public can express its views.
Can I stop you right there real quick? You say behind closed doors as if they're doing something wrong.
I don't mean to
Hang on,
imply
just hear me
that.
out.
Yeah.
Negotiations for purchasing property are, by nature, behind closed doors. The fact that they're doing it is open in public. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a fair criticism.
Characterization is a bit off.
That's a fair criticism. I apologize. I didn't mean to imply they're doing anything wrong, but the fact is that there has not been public discussion about what's going on. Maybe there's a little something buried in some of their rate filings, but as far as something publicly accessible, easily accessible, I haven't seen anything. Finally, I wanted to say that I agree with the prior speaker that there should be some changes to Burlington Electric's strategic direction. It states a vision for 2025 to become a net zero energy city by eliminating fossil fuel usage and expanding local renewable generation. You become net zero by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's what net zero means. It means reducing greenhouse gas emissions so that they're in balance with the absorption of carbon dioxide by our forests and our oceans. And so their strategic vision should focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, not just eliminating fossil fuel use. And this is particularly troubling to me, to have this as their strategic direction when they have this wood-burning power plant that is the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say the largest single, but not the largest. Vehicles are the largest in the state.
Transportation.
It's the
Single.
largest
Let's be
single
clear.
stationary
Single,
source.
but it's not the largest source in the state. I want to be clear about that.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ashley Adams.
Hi there, Ashley Adams, and I will read. I apologize in advance, but this is based on the time that I had to prepare, and I appreciate your the time that each of you dedicates to this important task on this commission. As a business owner, I'm deeply concerned about the direction in which Burlington Electric continues to lead Burlington, and I'm disappointed that this body continues to support that direction. So I hope that you will consider feedback that you hear tonight, and I'm sure that you will. As a parent, as I parent my child through climate collapse in a world of disappearing species, I find the continued operation of McNeil to be disgraceful, and I can't believe we're still having this conversation. The public good is not served by paying for the most expensive and polluting way to generate power. The public good is not served by Burlington's outsized contribution to the climate emergency, by contributing to habitat and biodiversity loss as we burn so-called low-value trees from the forests of Vermont and New York. The public good isn't served by reducing our ability to mitigate floods and clean our air and water. It certainly isn't served by dumping deadly particulate matter and other toxic air pollution into our most vulnerable neighborhoods. The public good isn't served by clinging to McNeil, the highest carbon emitter in Vermont, keeping it open in perpetuity, which seems to be the plan here, while Burlington Electric peddles the net zero roadmap, which seeks only to reduce fossil fuel use. Any mildly climate concerned person knows that we need to eliminate greenhouse gas pollution from every source. Allowing lies about McNeil to remain on Burlington Electric's website, including the outrageous science-denying claim that operating the plant results in an 85% reduction in greenhouse gas pollution. We know that isn't true. Failing to recognize that dumping $49 million plus into the harebrained district energy project would be a scandalous waste of money that would increase greenhouse gas pollution and lock Burlington into a dirty energy future. Failing to initiate the World War II effort called on by the City Council in 2019 to address the climate emergency in meaningful ways, such as by putting solar on every rooftop and parking lot in Burlington, as just one example. The loss of yet another $1 million for ratepayers due to improper filing of REC paperwork. Engaging in closed-door negotiations to purchase the McNeil plant from joint owners, thereby shouldering ratepayers with 100% of the millions in annual losses from McNeil. Failing to plan for dealing with the entirely foreseeable loss of REC purchases from Connecticut, perpetuating the myth that McNeil provides reliability to ratepayers that we wouldn't otherwise have, perpetuating the myth that Burlington needs to generate its own power. We certainly do not. Perpetuating the myth that McNeil keeps our rates low when in reality, it's far more expensive than the ISO New England grid mix, which emits 7 times less greenhouse gas pollution per unit of energy than McNeil. It should not be ratepayers' responsibility to prop up the forestry industry in Vermont or New York, and certainly not at the expense of climate, biodiversity, and our own health. So I urge you to consider that the most important way that you could fulfill your fiduciary duty here is by initiating a plan today to retire the polluting McNeil plant and offer a fair and just transition for McNeil employees, which we all want to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next we have, forgive my pronunciation, Leander Hussman.
I didn't sign up.
Oh. Okay.
Not to talk.
Did I sign up?
Okay. No, that's okay.
I signed it.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Peter McCausland.
So the first question, am I allowed to ask the commissioners questions? I have a simple question. How about that? Because first of all, I make a statement. Generally speaking, when a commissioner receives a email or handwritten letter with respect from a Burlington resident, would you expect them to acknowledge receipt of that? Yes, okay. So I know that some people, mail gets lost in the mail and some people delete their email. So I wrote Scott an email in October. I was apologetic for my action with Councilman Bergman back in August of last year. I explained myself, that's why I left the meeting. I thought Bergman was out of order and that's why I spoke out of turn. But in that, I asked you about Quantified Ventures, a possible funding source for Burlington District Energy. In July of 2024, Mike Ahern of Evergreen Energy sent an email to General Manager BD and Vermont Gas accepting a $49 million proposal. That was July of 2024. I contacted Quantified Ventures several times. I recently visited their office in Montpelier, going there. And does Burlington District Energy have a spokesperson? Because I would like to know the answer if Quantified Ventures decided on a category 1 or a category 2. How would I find that answer? Who is the spokesperson for Burlington District? Because Elena asked me to contact Joe Dempsey, city attorney. I've done that twice, no response. What can you say to me?
I think we can take note and see if there's someone to respond to you or follow up on this request.
I can just offer that
Okay.
there's no, this entity that I think you're referencing is an entity, my understanding, that was created under the EPA Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund or is participating in the EPA Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund,
Correct.
which may or may not have been completely eliminated, I think, in the last legislation at the federal level, and was providing lower interest financing opportunities to different projects.
Right.
But we don't have any particular relationship with them.
But according to the Mike Ahern email, it acknowledged receipt of a proposal for $49 million.
There might have been a proposal that they offered, and he might have received it, but
Okay.
I don't think there's anything else to really share on that.
Okay, so to the best of your knowledge, Quantified Ventures probably will not be considering financing Burlington District Energy?
I don't really have much more information than there was this entity. They had potentially low interest financing through the Greenhouse Gas Fund.
Okay.
I think they had been in touch with Michael. He had looked at, options there. They may have been in touch, but there's nothing formal there whatsoever that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I'll be in touch with Andy Rob Vogel. of SRH law, and we know each other on a certain basis, and so let's see how I do there. The other thing I want to mention is that in July of 2024, it was a $49 million project. That's a year ago. In November of 2023, it was a $42 million project. I'm not a financial analyst, but my rough guess, talking to your accountant down in Rhode Island, is probably near 60 million now. Based on those numbers, I think this commission needs to acknowledge the cost and share that information with the city council. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tate Agnew signed in. Do you wish to speak?
No, I was just spectating.
Next, we have Steve Goodkind, who's signed in. Do you wish to speak?
I'm Steve Goodkind. I am the happily retired Public Works Director and City Engineer for the City of Burlington, and a dedicated member of the Stop Vermont Biomass Organization. I'm not going to repeat what people have said, but just to summarize, a number of people have spoke about the district energy project, and I think it is time to let us know what's happening. 20 months ago, the city passed a resolution regarding this project, and it was under the understanding that this had to be done right away. This was literally an emergency. If this resolution was not approved, there'd be no project. Now, I'm not saying that that was a lie, but it's certainly false. And the whole premise of that resolution and the environment by which it was approved has certainly just been thrown to the wayside. And I think it is time to let us know what's happening, and maybe to consider in a calmer fashion, without the emergency hanging over us, because it obviously isn't, what that resolution should look like. It does have some good points, but on the other hand, it was definitely negotiated under duress. And I don't think it was a fair representation to say that that was an emergency. And just one other point. I'm an engineer. I'm a retired engineer. If someone came to me and said, this is the most dangerous structural bridge in the state of Vermont, and here's number 2, I wouldn't be arguing. I wouldn't expect them to argue which is 1 and which is 2. They're both bad. And argue that cars are worse than McNeil with CO2 production. If that's offending people, or people are angry about someone saying that, that's not even the issue. They're both really bad. And one is not less bad. The one that's less bad, whichever you think it is not better than the one that is more bad. So just from a technical standpoint, that's a nonsensical thing to even worry about. I think McNeil is the largest stationary producer of CO2 in the state. But even if it's number 2, it's still really bad. And so is the other one, the cars. So I would just say that's not an argument that really makes sense to me at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim, you've signed in. Do you wish to speak?
So first I want to thank you. I'm sure it's a big job keeping the lights on and helping Burlington transition their buildings to more efficient and less emitting things like heat pumps, and some of those things you're doing a great job on. So I would like to actually talk to you today about the health impacts of burning wood. For the last 4 years, this is mainly what I study, and I have good connections with researchers in the medical field who guide me on reading the right things. And of course, the American Lung Association produces a lot of extensive literature on human health. So wood, which is what McNeil burns huge amounts of, is the most toxic fuel we burn for human health. Have you all heard of something called PM 2.5? Does anybody not know what that is? PM 2.5 is one of our 5 critical air pollutants that the EPA, regulates, and you have to report how much McNeil and other things emit. PM 2.5 is so teeny that it's slightly bigger than the coronavirus. So on wildfire days, hot tip, wear your K95 mask. If it can screen out the coronavirus, it can screen out the PM 2.5. And medical science, American Lung Association, all of our top medical schools, all of our top researchers, there is no amount of PM 2.5 that is considered healthy. So on the most recent report I've seen, McNeil was admitting over 5 tons of it, even with your very fancy electrostatic precipitator. So that's bathing the workers, the Old North End, the Winooski neighborhoods right around it. And when there's good wind, it bathes a good chunk of Chittenden County in an air pollutant that is known to exacerbate asthma and COPD. And so the ERs and the lung clinics at UVM fill up when it's bad, like especially with wildfire smoke. That's a huge new input of that. But in addition to that, the Harvard Chan School of Public Health has a very good video on how now PM 2.5 is being connected not only to bad heart and lung issues and cancer, but it is also connected now with mood disorders and dementia. So you may not know someone with asthma, but chances are really good you know someone with a mood disorder or dementia. And PM 2.5 is particularly bad for unborn children through the teen years and people over 65, and is connected with higher death rates in communities that get lots of air pollution if people are over 65, which is a lot of Vermonters. Vermont ranks 5th in the nation for asthma. So that's according to the Vermont Department of Health website. You can go see that too. And they have lots of information on who gets, who is more prone to asthma. And it's a lot of the people living right near McNeil. It's renters, it's low income, it's LGBTQ persons, it's people of color. They have even more asthma than the average, and we're already not doing well. So that's just PM 2.5, and wood emits more than coal. I mean, most people think coal is the worst thing you can possibly burn. Actually, modern science is pretty much coming to the conclusion that it's wood. And the American Lung Association is now saying wood is replacing coal in causing mortality issues in the American population. Just recently, if you read the New York Times, you may have caught it. They covered that the one of our top scientific journals is the journal Nature. And in that magazine, research was just published connecting air pollution to non-smokers getting lung cancer. 10 to 25% of lung cancer cases are now non-smokers. And their research showed that they had more exposure to air pollution than secondhand. They didn't even have secondhand smoke as a major risk factor. It was air pollution. And so we're seeing more and more people with lung cancer. So those are just a tip of the iceberg of the health problems with burning anything, but especially wood. And the cool thing about when you transition to something else is that the human health responds very quickly. You know, climate change is a crisis. I think we all know that. We're seeing the flooding, we're seeing the wildfires, we're seeing the horrendous challenges. And with climate change comes hotter air, even for Vermont. And hotter air combines with some of those things that burning fuels emit, causing ground level ozone, which is also a major health impactor, not a good impactor. And Vermont is now, you know, tomorrow it's going to be 95. We will probably have some ground level ozone. And that's because of the interaction of sunlight and heat and air pollution. So please, for the sake of your workers and the sake of those who live near McNeil, which is really all of Chittenden County, I hope you will find a way to transition off burning anything to create electricity. And one final thing of hope, I was talking with a good friend of mine whose company puts in solar and heat pumps and all that. And I'm like, what are you going to do? All the rebates are disappearing. What's going to happen? And he's like, well, believe it or not, at least initially, solar is going to get cheaper because they're going to have massive amounts of solar they're trying to get rid of. So there you go. Grab some solar, get us off of burning things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak? Next, if we move on to the Commissioner's Corner, is there anything from the Commissioner's Corner? Any commissioners who would like to bring up anything for discussion?
So just one thing is I have to leave
Yep.
early tonight. So just for kind of responding to some of the public comment, are there updates with District Energy? It does feel like we haven't heard about that in a while.
So with District Energy, I think what may have been lost is we had the November City Council approval. Relatively immediately, there was a move on a part of, I think, maybe one or more city councilors to update the just then passed carbon fee. And the medical center said, we're not going to discuss District Energy while that's under consideration. And that lasted for several months into 2024. Then we did have a mayoral transition. We spent some time, understanding the various new priorities of the administration. There was a prioritization appropriately of the land use MOU discussion with the medical center that would govern their future kind of land use and investments in their campus. That just concluded, I believe, in February of 2025. And then at the same time, we, with some limitations in terms of capacity, have been trying to manage the negotiations discussion, manage 2 studies that are part of the District Energy resolution, other initiatives like battery storage RFP that impacts on McNeil, looking at the engineering for the wood chip dryer. So we really haven't had a huge amount of time without constraints to consider kind of where things stand relative to District Energy. And there have been some other higher priorities that we've been putting time into. So hopefully in the next several months, we can offer some further guidance and update on where things stand there. But I just think it's important to have that in mind because we can flash back to the November 23 and say, okay, what's been happening? And there were several constraints that limited our ability to have productive discussions on this topic because there were other factors in play.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner points for discussion?
No, this time.
So I just have a couple other clarifications. So is it true that ISO New England has lowered greenhouse gas emissions and is less expensive than McNeil?
So if you're going to contend that the ISO grid is lower emissions than McNeil, I think you are only able to make that contention if you're purely looking at stack emissions potentially. And then of course there's some nuclear in the ISO mix, which this community has said in every way, shape, and form I'm familiar with, we don't want nuclear. So we can't kind of say, oh, we would take it in the ISO mix if we're not willing to contract for it. 50% plus of the ISO mix is natural gas. The stack emissions do not account for any methane leakage, which is a potent greenhouse gas emissions challenge. So when you look at the stack only, you're giving a pass to natural gas for their upstream methane emissions, which in my view is significant. You're also completely discounting any life cycle emissions benefit from using above ground carbon in wood that is leftover tops, limbs, disease damaged trees, non-commercial harvest, which even the Manomet study, which was not pro biomass in any respect, said has a very favorable carbon profile compared to natural gas or fossil fuels. So it's only if you're able to take a very narrow view of the emissions and ignore the upstream fossil fuel impacts and any downstream benefits for McNeil and include nuclear that you can get to that conclusion. I've always understood that life cycle is the way we account for emissions, not just at the stack. In terms of being less expensive, it's generally been true that all renewables have been more expensive than the ISO fossil fuel mix. That's never been a consideration when we talk about wind or solar or any other resource. So it shouldn't be a unique consideration relative to wood. There are, appropriate considerations on the economics of the various resources. And in my update tonight, I actually addressed the Connecticut rec situation we can go into a little bit more. But the idea that we want to take the cheapest energy, even if it's fossil, is contrary to my understanding of, our focus. And I guess I'll say maybe it's a little controversial in this room at the moment. Focusing on reducing and eliminating fossil fuels is climate action. That is climate action. That is 80% of the problem globally. So I think everything we do to eliminate fossil fuel usage is a huge thing. And we've also seen the influence of the fossil fuel industry, not just recently in Washington, as it works to stamp out all the various renewable and electrification incentives. So not putting our dollars into an industry that's using its influence to crush solar, crush wind, crush electric vehicles, I feel better about that than I would if we were putting money into the ISO grid. So.
Great, thanks. No, that was, yeah.
No, it's great. Yeah, just checking. Thank you, General Manager Springer, for that. Next, we have the financial review.
Is it possible for the public to respond? I mean, this was just climate science defined plans that are going unanswered. It's really disturbing.
I think that this portion of the public comment is closed, but we welcome future comments.
Hi, good evening. Before we get into May results, I wanted to share with the commission just a few updates in the BED finance world. The accounting team is closing the June books this week. I expect to have a preliminary FY25 report for you in September. It will not include all of the year-end adjusting entries that we do, but it will be a first look. So I don't have final or preliminary full FY25 results yet. We do know the cash position as of June 30 was $8.5 million for operating cash. It's $1.3 million less than budget. I know some of the reasons for that, but not all, so I won't speculate now, but we'll cover that in September as well. And the team is working on preparation for the year-end audit. The auditors will begin their field work in September. Also, the refinancing of the 2014A revenue bonds that you approved 1 or 2 meetings ago. The Vermont Bond Bank will be pricing that issuance next week, closing the first week of August 7th. So that's moving ahead. I also wanted to share that we are finalizing finally our miscellaneous service fees filing for the PUC. We have the draft elements all prepared, and we're planning to submit those by the end of the week. We have a meeting tomorrow to iron out a couple little details. And then lastly, we have negotiated new terms for payment processor, credit card processor, which we're planning to implement coincident with the go live of our new customer information system and customer portal next spring. We've negotiated a 3% on credit card payments instead of the flat $3.50. And then the ACH e-check fee will go from a flat $3.50 to a flat $1. So we think it's a much better set of terms for customers, and we're excited to be able to offer that next year.
3% of
The bill of the transaction.
What if that ends up being more than $3?
Then it ends up being more than $3.
The reason
$3.50.
Well, the reason I like the 3% relative to the $3.50 flat is think of somebody who maybe is a low user, or maybe a customer who's a renter who's a lower user,
Right.
which tends to be the case. If they're paying $350 on a $30 or $40 bill, that's actually quite a pretty high percent. That's closer to like 10%. If they're paying 3% on a 30, something dollar bill, they're paying $1. So it is progressive in a way, because then if you are a higher user and you've got a $200, $300, $400 bill and you choose to use a credit card, you pay a higher fee for certain. But I think it's going to help folks who are lower users and or potentially renters be able to pay less if they're using the credit card fee. So it'd be great to have no fee at all. We would love that. But I do worry that you're putting a $350 or a $3 fee on somebody who's a low user. They're paying a disproportionate share of their bill as part of the fee.
Question on that, is that, I recall that the Burlington Electric used to absorb those fees as they increased, then for payments it was passed along. Is it passed along at cost to the ratepayers? So will bill payers see this literally as described now on their bills?
They won't see it on their bills.
On their payment when they make the
But
payments.
when they make the payment, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so with those are my other updates. Moving now to May 2025 results. Net income for May was $340,000 compared to a budget of $1.56 million, a variance of $1.2 million. Most of that due, as you can see, to rec revenues, which I'll dive into here as we go down from the top. Sales to customers revenue had a favorable variance to budget of $76,000. Other revenues, a negative variance. That's mostly EEU reimbursements being less than budget. Rec revenues were down $1.37 million, partly due to timing, partly due to lower wind production in FY24. And I'll show you, you can see when I say timing, you can see year to date, the rec revenues are down a net of $190,000. So there's a bigger variance in May because some recs were delivered in April instead. And I'm just gonna show you, bear with me while I scroll. I'm gonna go to the power supply detail for a second. Let me get my zoom adjusted. So year to date now, we've closed on all rec deliveries. So you can see that McNeil Recs had a favorable variance to budget of $425,000. Wind is the highest negative, and this is because of lower than budgeted production in calendar year 2024. So that had a negative variance of $471,000, and then a little bit lower on hydro, $96,000, again due to lower production. And the other is solar, I believe, and that's lower also for production. So a big monthly variance in May, but year to date or for the whole year, $189,000. Go back to where I was. Okay. So then moving to operating expense. Net power supply expense was favorable in May by $67,000. As always, that's made up of several components. Transmission was favorable to budget this month. Fuel was unfavorable. McNeil production was higher than budgeted. And then purchase power was also favorable. Wind production was all under budget, which offset, which decreased expense. And then McNeil ran more, which also decreased expense through the ISO exchange. Other operating and maintenance expenses were favorable to budget by $146,000. Small variations in depreciation and taxes, as we've been seeing throughout the year. And then other income and deductions below the line, a relatively small variance of $57,000 for this month. So year to date, we have an actual net income through May of $4.5 million compared to a budget net income as of May of $3.9 million, a favorable variance of $542,000. Questions on this page before I go to the next page?
What's your sense of where net income is going to land, but after the end of the fiscal year?
I Do I have that? Give me a second, please. We haven't updated our forecast. We didn't update our forecast in June because by the time you update the forecast in June, it's basically over. And it's time to be looking ahead. So the most recent one we updated in May. Just waiting to open this Excel file. As of May, we were forecasting a net income of $3.5 million. So it'd be, and our net income for the whole year was 3.4. So it was a favorable variance of about 125,000.
I have another quick
Oh, yeah.
question. So the one thing caught my eye on the report, which was, well, a few things did, but the Winooski 1 property tax being pretty substantially different than expected. It was favorable, but I'm just curious if you can talk about, is that sort of a timing issue where that is that a negotiated with Winooski, or is that assessed by Winooski? It's not like payment in lieu of taxes like in Burlington, it's like an assessed tax.
Correct. If I remember the timing of this right, our budget was prepared prior to Winooski's most recent reappraisal, and they went through a reappraisal, and the Winooski 1's property value went down based on the historical production, revenue, and expense figures that we provided, which is what the appraisal or assessing firm that Winooski hired, uses as their methodology for generating stations. So I believe that is the source of the positive variance, is the reappraisal.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll move to the next page. So capital spending for May year to date was $7.5 million. We had budgeted to be at just over $11 million at this stage of the year. That's 65% of the full year budget. As you can see, most of the variance is in the general plant category. That is due to the timing of the big IT implementations starting a little later than we had hoped and planned for them to do, and also the timing of our vehicle replacements. Our major vehicle replacement for the year, the truck didn't come in until the very end of June. So that will hit FY25. It just hadn't been booked as of May. As of the end of May, our operating cash position was $9.5 million. That is compared to a budget of $11 million at this point of the year, difference of $1.5 million, largely due to the replacement rec purchase we had to make. And debt service coverage is at 4.91, adjusted debt service coverage ratio 1.26, and we have 144 days cash on hand, including the $10 million line of credit. Happy to take further questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we have the GM update.
Great, thank you. So, to address, I think, what Nick Persampieri had asked about, it's in the report about the Connecticut recs. So our understanding of Connecticut legislation as enacted is Wood Energy continues to be eligible for Class 1 recs, but the only pathway to continuing eligibility is through one or more RFPs that the Connecticut DEEP, which is a state agency, will issue perhaps as early as September or October timeframe. And we don't know when those RFPs will be, finalized. We don't know all the criteria yet. We're hopeful that there will be a form RFP that we'll have, like anyone else, the opportunity to review. From a ratepayer standpoint, regardless of anyone's view of McNeil, continuing to have eligibility for the RECs is a benefit, because without the eligibility, we'll see an impact starting in Q4 of this current fiscal year. And then we'll see a much larger impact in the following fiscal year. So we will certainly do everything we can to maintain eligibility. It doesn't lock us into anything specific in terms of what we want for the future of the plant. But losing that revenue in that way is not a beneficial outcome. But there is an RFP process, so just to kind of give that response for Nick's question. Of course, McNeil remains eligible in some other markets, including Vermont, but the REC values there are not as high as they would be in Connecticut. Connecticut's effort, by and large, which I think is somewhat noteworthy in of itself, is it's one of the first states I've seen, and certainly in the New England region, that said we're going to dial back our renewable portfolio standard requirements because of affordability challenges. That's a concerning thing on its own, for putting aside whatever's going on with any particular resource. And I think it's further concerning given kind of where we are with some of the incentives at the federal level. But all of that said, we'll continue to stay engaged there. As I've mentioned, elsewhere, we'll be doing and are doing financial contingency planning to prepare for scenarios, including scenarios where we're not selected for the RFP, or even scenarios where we were selected, but there's a gap between the eligibility from Q3 through to some future point. So we'll keep the commission fully updated on that. We've done everything we can to understand this legislation, including engaging with counsel in Connecticut, who has a deeper understanding of the language than we do. Moving to another topic, we are anticipating at the August TUC meeting that we'll have modeling from Synapse of 3 different building types using real-world data from Burlington, real buildings, anonymized, of course, to look at different sort of cost benefits relative to benchmarking energy efficiency or on-site efficiency, strategic electrification approaches. So I think the meeting is the 4th Tuesday of the month, typically. So in late August, we're looking forward to presenting that. Chris Burns, Jen Green, and myself have been working with the Synapse team and getting as much data to them as they need so that they can create their modeling. We've had, obviously, the battery out here working for us, the mobile battery this summer, as well as Defeat the Peak. And we had a successful annual peak effort, at least annual peak to date. Could be another one, but it was fairly warm, so we're thinking it could actually end up being the peak, potentially for the year. Our Defeat the Peak partner was the Richard Kemp Center. Itameno was our Jim Reardon Award winner for the 2025 Jim Reardon Award. Got to select the first Defeat the Peak partner. We were really pleased to go to the Richard Kemp Center earlier this week and present them with the Defeat the Peak contribution for their efforts there. We'll continue to be testing the battery through September. We have it through September.
Have you been able to physically see, because you're probably shooting to get that thing fired up for one of these events? And
yeah, we've seen a successful.
And then see it
yeah,
manifest itself.
We did with the annual peak in particular. We saw a successful event. It's 1.2 megawatts nominal. It can produce, or it can essentially provide up to 240 kilowatts in a given hour, because that's a 4-hour duration. So it was helpful during that peak event and shaving, several hundred kilowatt hours or kilowatts off the peak for us. So, we're hoping to do something with a 5 megawatt or one or more 5 megawatt batteries in the future. We had an RFP open for that earlier this year. We reopened it to get updated pricing given the tariffs and the incentives that have been changing pretty dynamically. So we'll be reviewing that in the second half of this year and looking at options for moving forward with a much bigger battery that we'd have for a longer term. This has been great to give our team some experience, real-time experience working with the battery and learning, how to set the parameters and everything like that. Yeah. So we're happy to have the pilot. I mentioned earlier, but I want to reiterate, the federal legislation that passed is a huge headwind for all of the various climate action and strategic electrification we're trying to do in Burlington, across the state, across the country. Solar and wind incentives being eliminated while they're maintaining and in some cases adding new fossil fuel incentives on the generation side, effort to truly tip the scales away from new renewables. I worry about the impact of that on the availability of new renewables in New England, particularly combined with the efforts to shut down some of the offshore wind leases that the administration's made, and the harm that's come from the tariff conversation on our relationship more broadly as a state with Canada, and the potential for support from Canada. So I think the renewable energy generation environment is going to be quite challenging over the next several years. And I think that beyond that, we work very hard. The focus of our net zero roadmap efforts are in the thermal and transportation sectors, heat pump incentives, energy efficiency incentives, induction cooking incentives, incentives for EV charging, incentives for upgrading your electric panel, incentives for all manner of electric vehicles, all being shut down, and the EV incentive going away by the end of September. So it's a very abrupt shutdown of that market. Combined with the fact that the state no longer funds the EV rebate program, means that for Burlington customers, we will be the only source of financial support for anyone looking to get a new or used EV. We're going to consider what types of flexibility we have within our various programs to do more than we've done currently. We won't be able to fill that gap. There's no question. We can't afford to do that. There may be some things we can do to support customers during this period, to make it at least moderately more affordable than it would otherwise be to continue with an EV or with a plug-in hybrid or different things like that. So we're going to look at all those options. We'll keep the commission updated on that as well. But in terms of the rate case, there is a possibility that the FY26 rate may be slightly reduced from the 4.5%. I'm talking probably 4.3 something. In order to account for some one-time consulting fees that had inadvertently been included in the FY25 rate case that are being withdrawn. And so we may be able to account for that in the FY26 rate case. There's some process on both of those rate cases at the PUC currently. So I want to give the commission an update. Obviously, downward pressure, moderate downward pressure is not a bad thing for customers. And it addresses an issue potentially that we had with the FY25 rate case that we can address in 26. So keep you posted there. And then lastly, we were expecting that potentially the EV grant that we had received might be, the funding source for that might have been eliminated in this recent legislation. It was not. And so that grant remains frozen currently with FHWA. We have been in active discussions with our state attorney general office and in coalition with other grantees around the country, looking at whether there is any sort of action that we can join or be participating in that would give us an opportunity to get a court order similar to what's been happening in some other contexts to unlock that money. We would very much like to bring that $4.85 million to Burlington for EV charging. If we don't get it, we'll continue to invest through the revenue bond, but not nearly at the scale that we would if we can get the grant. So we're making an effort there, very proactive. We appreciate the Attorney General's office for being supportive and doing everything they can to work with us on that. So keep you posted there as well. That's everything I've got on that item.
Thank you.
Glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
No, busy as usual.
And hopefully you appreciated the slightly shorter report this month. We've tried very hard to move it from being a 13 some odd page report down to about 8, trying to make sure we're more concise. So welcome additional feedback as you're reviewing, but trying to keep things a little tighter on the report as well.
It's appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, it's effective.
Good. We'll try to stick with that format.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the 2025-2026 strategic direction for discussion and vote.
Okay. So the strategic direction, as the commission knows, we've had a fairly steady focus since the roadmap was released in the top items, but we have had some updates annually in the strategic objectives. We run a process here. Our goal is that this is a one-page document that goes up on our wall. We want every BEDer to see a piece of their work in this document and identify something that they're involved with as being a part of this document. So we start off by asking everybody in the organization to bring forward any ideas they have for updates. I think a few years ago, there was quite a dynamic update process. This year, much more stable, which from my thinking is not a bad thing to have some stability in the strategic planning, but some good new initiatives or language around initiatives in here. A chunk of this comes from suggestions that we've had from our sustainability and equity team as well. So we've tried to capture some of their suggestions in here. Maybe I'll just walk through the track changes and give just some context for the commission. So if you have the document open, our first set of strategic objectives are around engaging customers in the community. We have added some language here to talk about expanding and enhancing capacity building and energy literacy. ETA, as you know, has done some great work in the community and also with videos that have been translated into a number of different languages, explaining, how to read your electric bill, like how to focus in on weatherization. So I think we're trying to capture some of those initiatives here with this language. We also have in this section an update to talk about working with frontline communities to ensure programs and services are equitable, fully accessible, and build community resilience. Again, in the equity space, we've done a lot of work with a lot of different partners. We have had a good, strong relationship with CVOEO, for example, in trying to make sure that as we're offering programs, we are hearing from all members of the community in terms of what their needs are, trying to be focused on outreach that's beyond the typical channels that we might always have had in the past. So I think we're trying to capture some of that here. This next item is a suggestion that comes from me, which is to make note that in our evolution of our efficiency programs and our strategic electrification efforts, part of our job now is to fill gaps due to the federal program changes. We've had the Efficiency Modernization Act pilot that came from our original pandemic era programs, was turned into a legislative 3-year pilot. We were able to get it extended, runs through the end of 2026, and then it ends. And we're going to be asking the legislature to extend that for BED because it enables us to use our efficiency dollars and our Tier 3 dollars in combination much more effectively. We've used it for geothermal well drilling, for example, test wells at a variety of spots, including the high school, which went forward with a geothermal system. We've used it to support the multifamily rental charging program that we've had that's been a successful pilot program and now a permanent program with EV Match, who we met through the Delta Climb Business Accelerator. We've had stronger EV incentives, stronger heat pump incentives, all because of this new legislation. And so now it provides us flexibility potentially to look at how we can fill gaps or be responsive as the federal government steps away from any type of meaningful action in these spaces. So we just wanted to capture that a little bit. Munir is not here, but the strength and reliability section is stable, as is the people process technology section. So the next place we have edits is in the Innovate to Reach Net Zero Energy. This is another edit that I added as a proposed edit to suggest that in the section where we talk about district energy, we're talking about network geothermal as well. I've always conceived of district energy not limited to any one particular source, but just the idea that you're connecting one or more buildings with a common energy system. It's been done with fossil fuels in the past. It certainly in Burlington has come to mean connecting McNeil, but it can mean geothermal. It can mean other things as well. We are interested in geothermal. There are some opportunities, not just for geothermal like we have at the high school potentially or some of the other schools, but maybe some network systems, particularly as we have new developments taking place. So we want to capture that with this edit. In this next edit, which really comes from our equity team, we're talking about ensuring our charging infrastructure is available for all Burlingtonians, including in locations near affordable and rental housing, frontline communities, and small businesses in under-resourced areas. I think we've made some meaningful steps in this space. We've done the pilot pole-mounted chargers in areas of the city that meet certain types of metrics for income, for percentage of renters, different types of metrics around environmental justice. We've gotten some good feedback on those. We want to kind of continue to be intentional about where we're locating charging. We've taken a lot of community feedback on that as well through our surveys. The next item is really just some tweaked language around broadening engagement as we have partnerships. I think it's fairly straightforward. And then the last proposed edit is in the first bullet under managing budget and risks responsibly, talking about promoting affordability, targeting investment in vulnerable communities, protecting against cost burdens for low-income customers. Obviously been doing some work on that with the EAP program and the continued expansion of that. We want to be conscious of any types of burdens that we're placing on all customers, but particularly low-income customers. And so that language is in there to help us, help guide us in that direction. So those are the edits. Again, we didn't receive an overwhelming amount of feedback this year from the team, which reflects hopefully a relative stability and satisfaction with the language capturing a lot of the work that we're doing already, but some good edits from Ita and Jen, and then a few that we've offered as well in a couple different areas, and glad to answer any questions the commission has.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This is helpful, Darren. Thank you, and appreciate the walkthrough. So I think I was here last year. We did this. So this is my second time through this process. This is, you're bringing to the, what's the role of the commission in this document really? Is it a formality in that it's something the department could adopt, but we're sort of, you're bringing it, you know, what, it's not a binding document per se, right?
It's not a binding document per se. We find it to be, I think, a useful sort of common document between the commission and the department, and between the department staff amongst ourselves, to be able to know kind of what we're aiming at, what we're trying to achieve, you know, what initiatives we're putting focus on. We could adopt it on our own, you're correct. At the same time, if the commission has feedback, there's nothing that says you have to vote on it this evening. If it's something that you want to think about, if you had particular items that you wanted us to do a little more work on or more thinking on, we've had that in the past where the commission has said, okay, we're going to take another meeting and come back to it. So the commission can certainly suggest language as well if there are things that you think we're missing or not captured in here.
Good, that's helpful, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I think it's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Should we move to?
Was there a vote or something?
Yep.
You said discussion vote?
Yeah. Anyone want to initiate the motion?
You can add move it.
Sorry. Number 8.
I move that the Burlington Electric Commission approves the 2025-2026 strategic direction as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Sheffield Wind contract extension, discussion and vote.
We have James with us online. James, you hearing us okay? I think you need to unmute. There we go. Okay. We can hear you as well.
Yes, but it's called a thumbs up, which is universal. I can hear you okay.
Very good. Are you able to present, or do you need us to try to present?
I can't present reliably from where I am, so that's why I sent you guys a copy over
Share
to pull it up.
screen from here. This share button, and pull up James's PowerPoint from earlier. Give us just a moment. We'll get it
Of course.
loaded. Here we go, James. We can see it on the screen. Can you see it?
I can indeed.
Okay. Let us know when you need us to move slides. We'll leave it there.
Okay, so this is a very classic utility chart, and I was telling Emily it's called a yawning gap chart. So for those of you who want to add a cool new term, yawning gap is the term. And all utilities have a yawning gap chart. I mean, the only way you'd not have a yawning gap chart is to have a perpetual contract for all of your resources and no load increases. So again, this is normal to see this. What this particular yawning gap chart shows is that we have 3 contracts expiring this year and next year. And it's the top 3 colored bars. It's the, I don't know, flesh colored bar, maybe peach colored bar, whatever that would be. Blue and dark green are the top 3. The first one is the First Light contract that you'll recall we signed last year, which started on July of 2024 and goes until the end of this year. And then we have two contracts that are expiring by their terms. One is Hancock, which was a contract signed about 9 years ago for 10 years. And the last one is the Vermont Wind contract, which was signed originally for, I believe, 10 years, extended for 5, and now the extension is expiring. The rest of our resources are in for a much longer period. So things like Winooski 1 is owned. McNeil, we own it. Hydro-Quebec is long-term. Georgia Mountain Wind, very long-term. NIPO, very long-term. So these are our relatively shorter midterm contracts. They were 5 to 10-year contracts, except for the First Light, which was 18 months. So we've got 3 of them rolling off. And if you could switch to the next slide. This is a quick summary of the 3 contracts. First one, First Light, is 35% of the output of a particular hydro plant in Connecticut, along with the RECs from that plant. That is essentially what's called a unit contingent contract. Deliveries of energy from that contract are subject to the unit being available. Started 7/1/24 and it ends at the end of this year. It provided in the last year, last fiscal year, 25 gigawatt hours. Its normal average is 35. Again, that is a unit contingent plant and they had some outage problems. So that's why the delivered output was less than we were expecting. Sheffield is 40% of the plant output. It includes anything that the plant produces. It is energy, capacity, RECs. It's what we would call sort of full tolling. It's everything the plant produces. That originally started in 2011 for 10 years and then was extended 5 more years. Hence it expires now in 10/18 of 2026. That's also around 30 gigawatt hours. And by the way, if you want to think of all of these as, low 30 gigawatt hours, that's really where they are intended to be. Most recent fiscal year was 30 gigawatt hours, but the historical average is a little high. And certainly you may have heard us saying that, recently wind has been down a bit this last year and things like that in the fiscal reports or financial reports. These are some of the things you might see. The last one is a Hancock contract. It was a 10-year contract in 2016. 26% of the output of the Hancock plant, energy, capacity, and RECs. While we are entitled to everything the plant produces, the plant is unable to deliver capacity because the ISO New England market does not have the ability to transmit the capacity from northern Maine to southern New England. So if that constraint were ever relieved, we would become entitled to the capacity, but right now it's not actually delivering any. Again, signed in 2016, 10 years, now expiring in 12/9/2026. All of those are each about 33 gigawatt hours, give or take, and that's about 10% of our load each. So in the next 18 months, we have 30% of our energy supply expiring. So we are going to be focused on considering energy replacement options between now and the last of those expirations. There's no reason you can't renew one earlier. You don't have to wait till it expires. You can go ahead and negotiate a renewal now, which is one of the things we're going to talk about, what we're talking about tonight. But we have other options on the table too. So we are looking at a replacement of the hydro plant. We are looking at extensions of the 2 expiring winds, and we've had a couple of entities approach us for possible contracts. So we're comparing all of those options. What we're talking about tonight is Sheffield has been particularly responsive, and the pricing is looking interesting. There is no commission meeting in August, and so we wanted to see if we could create some optionality to execute if we received a contract proposal price that was lower than we're currently paying now, or at or below what we're currently paying now. If we could get a renewal with good terms and conditions and at a savings or parity, we would like to at least be able to move on that at Darren's discretion. And that's really what we're here asking for tonight, is some ability to, if we get a good actionable proposal from Sheffield, to move on it.
Thank you, James.
And with that, any questions, certainly.
Any questions?
I wasn't able to get to look at the actual document. What's the duration of the extension?
The proposal would be to, I'll go through the resolution real quick, would be to delegate to the manager authority to enter a contract for up to 5 years to extend Sheffield, provided that the price is at or below the current contract price. And so it would be, and 5 years is within the Electric Commission's authority that has been delegated to the Electric Commission by the city council, that would not need to go to the city council for approval, nor would it need any state approvals. There is no state approval process for in-state contracts. Contracts in excess of 5 years in-state would need city council approval as well as electric commission approval. 5 years or less is vested at the electric commission. And by the way, that we're not proposing that 5 years because of that. We're proposing the 5 years because Sheffield is potentially going to be having to replace and repower some of their equipment in about 5 years. So they're not sure what they're going to have to sell in 5 years. So 5 years worked for them too. That was their proposal, not ours.
Thanks for the context.
Any other questions? Thoughts?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Okay. Does anyone?
I do have one question.
Yeah.
So this may be something that's commercially sensitive, so I'm, it may not be something to talk about here, but I'll frame it as a statement. What's running through my mind is, are we feeling good about the price that we have now, and the ability? So we would be extending the cap to negotiate another 5 years at or below. So, and I guess we're assuming with the mandate of providing the least cost overall. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Hey, James, I'll offer a thought and jump in as well if you'd like. So just recently I had the chance to hear from Gordon Van Wheely at ISO New England, and he was suggesting that across the board prices are going up, and that when we go to renew PPAs, you should expect to see increases by and large. So to be able to bring language that says we're either going to have at the same price or less of what we had already viewed as being reasonable at the time we had signed it previously, knowing we're in kind of a potentially escalating environment, to me is a positive. I probably can't go deeper than that without getting too far, but
that fully answers my statement.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also, we're not unaware of wanting to maintain our renewability because there are benefits that are outside of the contract benefit stream, like values of increased value of tier 3 by being 100% renewable, exemption from state procurement by being 100% renewable. So all in, yes, we think this is reasonable. Mm-hmm. And certainly I would be pleasantly surprised to see a reduction in a contract price these days. Now, it would still be high value RECs. We would still be getting the RECs from the unit as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the actual price is common.
And they also, I mean, in fact, you're asking us, they feel good about that as well? Or, I mean,
no one is ever going to tell you exactly, right. Where they're standing. But I mean, I think we have a couple of advantages, which is we are an existing off-taker. We've been an off-taker. I mean, I was literally there for the plant commissioning ceremony. We've been an off-taker since they went online. We extended our contract. We've been easy to deal with. We've never given them any problems. They've installed hardware to improve the congestion in Vermont, and we agreed to share the benefit with them. So again, I think we've been a good counterparty, and I think also that we're willing to sign 5 years and fill that block for them, I think has value, right? That we're not insisting on going past their repowering and putting additional risks on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but like anything else, you hope that you're both bringing value to the table. And one of the values,
cool, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, one of the values that I think VED tries very hard to bring is to be a reasonable counterparty. We are not known as a difficult counterparty.
You can probably unshare. The red button at the top. There we go.
Okay.
Reasonable to us.
We did provide a draft resolution.
Oh, no, thanks.
Yes, we have a draft here. Does anyone want to introduce the motion?
I move that the Burlington Electric Commission delegates the Burlington Electric Department General Manager the discretional authority to negotiate and enter into an extension of the Sheffield wind contract expiring 10/18/26 for an additional term of up to 5 years, provided that the extension price is at or below the current price and other contract conditions are appropriate.
A second?
A second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Darren, can I add just one last thing, which is just, and one of the reasons we showed you the other two expirations is do expect, that we will be having to come back more with these, with replacements for the other contracts too. So it was just to give you the sort of the heads up as well.
And so what is, in context, what do those two leave on the table for?
The two that James had up there that we still haven't brought you a replacement for is the First Light Hydro contract and what was the other one, James?
Hancock Wind.
From
So,
me, yeah.
In terms
so
of a
again,
percentage
you
of our
would
100%?
20 total.
30%.
30,
in total.
but now 20 if we get
20.
this one. Yeah.
If this one is executed, we'll be down to 20%. We will still have to do something between now and year end because the First Light is actually the one that's expiring soonest. But Sheffield has been very responsive, and if they continue to be responsive, and if the trade looks good, it would be very nice to be able to close it without having to risk losing it by waiting to September or something like that. That's what our thought is.
And just, kind of further context for some of the discussion earlier on staff capacity, right? So we have a small but mighty policy and planning team, obviously, that works on these issues, but works on a number of different issues. So we're very much trying right now to prioritize this, knowing we have some expiring contracts that need to be addressed. We also have that battery RFP that we want to address too. So we're trying to put some priority on those two items, and we'll be back to you hopefully later this year with some stuff there.
And before we close this, we'll certainly be comparing it to any other things we're aware of in the market, comparing it to market prices, all of that. But again, given the August gap, we just didn't want to find ourselves unable to move if we needed to.
Okay, so the motion passes.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you all.
Okay, last agenda item is the commissioners check-in. Does any commissioners want to bring forth anything before we close for the evening?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I guess I have one. Thanking Commissioner Hobbs for her service on the commission.
Yes, that's right.
And congratulations on your move.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you for your service, Commissioner Hobbs.
Serve with all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second that.
We are adjourned.
Oh, you have to
All in
vote.
favor, sorry. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? We are adjourned.
Now we're adjourned.
Okay.